أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا أما بعد. The moderator, my co-presenters, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Ahmad Faosiy Ogunbado, a Nigerian by nationality. I'm a lecturer at Faculty of Islamic Development Management, Universiti Islam Sharif Ali, UNISSA, Brunei, Darussalam. I'm presenting this at the second International Conference of Islamic Studies, organized by Riphah International University, Islamabad, Pakistan, 29 to 30 December 2021. The topic that I'm going to talk with, or I'm going to deliver, is concept of Islamic leadership in Syed Muhammad Naquib Al-Attas philosophy. By doing justice to this topic, you can see that it has two variables. The first part is Islamic leadership and the Syed Muhammad Naquib Al-Attas philosophy. So in order to know the concept of leadership in its notion, that is in its this philosopher's perspective, we have to know who is Muhammad Naquib Al-Attas, what is his education background and his words. So his work as academic work, likewise as administrative work. Without further delay, let's know who is Naquib Al-Attas. Naquib Al-Attas, his name is Syed Muhammad Naquib bin Ali bin Abdullahi bin Muhsin bin Al-Attas. You will see that when I call his name, I started with Syed. So whenever any name starts with Syed, it means it has a kind of relation to, or the family could be traced back to the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The ancestral family of Naquib Al-Attas, they can be traced back to Ahl al-Bayt in Hadramaut. Their forefather came from there to Java. The same thing is mother, who is Sharifah. So she is also Ahl al-Bayt through Al-Idrus, while his father is through the family name called Ba'ali, okay, or Ba'alawi. He was born in September 5, 1931 in Java, in Indonesia, and later moved down to Malaysia. His education, he started taking the elementary Islamic education from his parents, from his father, and later he started the primary school at Ingiheng Primary School in Johor. That was between 1936 to 1941. And also Madrasatul Urwatul Wuthqa. Then after in 1941, after he finished the primary school, he went back to Java and attached to Madrasat Al-Urwatul Wuthqa. That was between 1941 to 1945. Then later he moved back to Johor again. So he joined the English College. So, and in 1950, and graduated in 1951. So the following year, in 1952, he was given a scholarship to join the Royal Military Academy, so in England. So that was between 1952 to 1955. Later on, he joined University of Malaya in Singapore, so in 1957, and finished in 1959. He moved on for his master's degree in Michigan University, Canada, whereby he graduated with distinction in 1962. After finishing the master's, he came back to England at the School of Oriental and African Studies to pursue his PhD, and he finished that PhD, or he obtained his PhD degree also in 1965 at University of London. With this, he became the first Malaysian to obtain his PhD in this school and the University of London, and also become one of the vanguards, or one of the first people that obtained their PhD among Malaysians. We can see that he has a very voluminous background in terms of education. So let me quickly move, because of the time, let me quickly move to his works. He has many works as the outcome of his thinking. He produced a lot of works. One of the most important work of him is called Islam and Secularism. This Islam and Secularism translated to many languages: Turkey, Arabic, and many languages. He has a book also called Prolegomena, Islam and Concepts of Religion and the Foundation of Ethics and Morality. He has another book called The Concept of Education in Islam, Some Aspects of Sufism, and so on and so forth. His leadership role, since we want to look into the concept of leadership in him, in his philosophy, we also want to look into the role that he played. That, in other words, I can say that we will look into the administrative post which he held, where he played the leadership role there. In 1965, after his graduation, or after he has already obtained his PhD, he became the head of division of literature, literature division at University of Malaya. We can know that University of Malaya. So that was between 1965 to 1967. A year after, that was 1968, he became the dean of that faculty of arts at the same University of Malaya, which means he held a very important post. So he was a dean between 1968 to 1970. And 3 years later, he founded the Institute of Malay Language and Literature. So, and that is in another university, which is National University of Malaysia, University Kebangsaan, Malaysia. In 1989, he officially established a very renowned and important institution in Southeast Asia, which is called International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization in Damansara, and later the new campus was built in Jalan Duta in Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur. Al-Attas held the chair of Malay language and literature for good 14 years. That was from 1970 to 1980. We can see here also that he held a very important positions whereby he displayed what he believed as leadership in those places. We will talk about it further. Now, his work also got the international reputations all over the world. In 1975, he was honored and given Fellow of the Imperial Iranian Academic Philosophy because of his grant and because of his knowledge, which was so deep in literature, in languages, in Sufism, in calligraphy, and so on and so forth. After that, he became a principal consultant to the World of Islam Festival that was held in London in 1976. After that, he became the chairman of the Committee of Aim and Definition of Islamic Education, which was held in Mecca. That was the first World Conference on Islamic Education. Al-Attas was the chairman of Aim and Definition Committee in that conference. He also was a visiting professor of Islamics at Temple University in USA. Likewise, recently in 2020, there was a kind of international symposium on him, which they call 2020 International Symposium on Syed Muhammad Naquib Al-Attas, philosophical and civilizational dimensions. So it was organized majorly by UTM in Malaysia in collaboration with many organizations, not less than 6 or 7 that are collaborated in order to make this conference. Having said this, the concept of, then we are now moving into the concept of leadership in his philosophy. Al-Attas' philosophy is based on Quran and Sunnah worldview. That is to say, it is based on Islamic worldview. He believes in the nature of man as vicegerent, as Khalifa, whereby, since we say that it's based on Quranic and Sunnah, he believed that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already mentioned in the Quran that Bada isti'adat wal basmala, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلُ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَا يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَفْسِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. Based on this ayah, Al-Attas strongly believe that every human being is given a role to play. That's the role of being a Khalifa, role of being a leader. And by giving you as Khalifa, it is a kind of amana which you will be responsible to on the day of reckon, or the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. So, because he also have the ayah that's back that one, because he said that إِنَّا أَرَدْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا وَأَحْمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. And then that al-amana is a trust which must be given back to. So by having the person as a leader in a place, it means it's amana. And Rasulullah also mentioned in one of the hadiths, which everybody knows, where he says, "Kullukum ra'i wa kullukum mas'ul an ra'iyatihi." So everybody is a leader, and everybody will be asked as a. So Al-Attas believed on those are the backbone of his philosophy, which he also practiced when we have already mentioned some of the position that he held. So whenever he was in those positions, he tried his best to give whatever it can whatever it can be given on this on this position. Now, Al-Attas and his popular disciple, Professor Wang, they form what they call ICLIF Leadership Competency Model. And this competency model was based on Islamic worldview. It has four. He said, or he believed in his concept that in order to have a leader who is effective, there must be what he call 4 cardinal virtues. That is, he or she must possess these 4 virtues. Behind these 4 virtues, there are other virtues or other qualities, but he mentioned these 4. The first one, he called it wisdom. He said that an effective leader must possess some virtue so as to attain the happiness here in this world and thereafter or hereafter. One of it should be wisdom. And he says, and I quote, "Wisdom, hikmah, is a given God to man through the faculty of rational soul, which is both cognitive as well as active. The cognitive aspect of the wisdom is referred to the theoretical and active of practical." He mentioned it so long, but just what I need here is that Al-Attas believed that a leader must possess a wisdom, though al-hikmah, only Allah is given it. He said, "Yu'ta al-hikmah liman yasha, wa man yu'ta al-hikmah faqad utiya khayran kathira." Al-Attas believed also that a leader must have a courage, that is suja'. He must be a suja'. And he said, and he gave the courage the definition, whereby he says, and I quote as well, "Courage is a subdivision of anger in a motive and appetitive faculty of animal soul. It is greatness of the soul." That is, suja'a is a greatness of the soul. Magnificence, bravery, patience, self-possession, composure, manliness, gentleness, fortitude, endurance. This is all what Al-Attas called the courage. That is, which a leader must possess. The third one is temperance, al-Riphah. And it says that al-Riphah, and it describes al-Riphah also, it says that al-Riphah is a subdivision of a desire in the motive and appetitive faculty of animal soul as well. It is abstention from what is unlawful and base. So this is what we call, that is, a leader also must possess this. And the fourth one, according to Al-Attas, is justice, which we call al-adala. And it says that justice, and I quote as well, justice is derived from one beautiful name of God. It must be regarded like wisdom as the first principle of science of ethics. It is a condition of things and being in their rightful and proper place. That is to say, by placing the things in the right position. That is what the definition which Al-Attas gave to the justice. And all this one can be seen in his book, which I just mentioned, the leadership competency. Okay, so under these four, he mentions there are other qualities like eloquency, like ability to express what you have in you, and ability also to see, to foresee things. Those are the things that a leader must possess. Likewise, he mentioned that a leader must have education. So, because by having education, that is where a leader, that is what makes a leader a man of adab, which he called man of adab. He said that somebody who possesses education is called man of adab. In his the book Secularism, he elaborated this one very well. He elaborated it so wide, and he said, and he used the hadith which Rasulullah says, "Adabani Rabbi fa ahsana tahdib." So, and he also mentioned that the lack of problem that we have in leadership also associated with a lack of proper education. Al-Attas also gave the root vice destructive of the leadership. He said that there are four things that also leads to the destruction of leadership. The first one, you call it lying, breaking promise, and betraying trust. Whereby he said that one based on hadith which says that ayatul munafiq thalatha, idha hadatha kadhiba, wa idha wa'ada akhlafa, wa idha utumina khana. The symbol of hypocrites are four. So Al-Attas chose lying as one of the root vice that cause destruction to the leadership. Also, the second one from Attas' philosophy is slander, a slander which called fitna. So this fitna also is said that it's one of the root cause that cause the destruction to he said that he defined his false charge and misconception which defame and damage another reputation. So this another man's reputation. This is the definition which Attas gave to slander. And then he said that another one is envy, hasad. So envy, hasad. And he said that al-hasad, so Al-Attas believed that every good thing or fortune in any man's possession is a gift from his creator. And if another person aim that this, what Allah gives to him, should be gone, should be dropped from his hand, so this is hatred. This is envy. This is hasad. And then he said this one also is one of the things that cause destruction to the leadership. Then the fourth one, he called it bukhl, avarice. So, and then he said avarice is when you refrain. So he said the fourth one is of the root is, according to the professor, he defines it as to keep. I quote the verbatim of Al-Attas. He said avarice is to keep the wealth when it should be spent. That is the time that you're supposed to buy things for your whether your community or your organization or whatever, and you keep that money. You did not spend it when it's supposed to be spent. So he called this is the definition which he gave to it. And he said that it is from these four root files that others emanate. Okay, so in its analysis, he said that there is a confusion. There's a confusion and error. So, the confusion and error leads to the loss of adab. I mentioned that he called the concept of adab is very important in Al-Attas' philosophy. So he said somebody who is not possess education is a kind of a loss of adab, and this loss of adab is the one that leads to the rise or election or selection of a false leader, and that is, it is loss of adab that relates or that leads to the emergence of a false leader. And false leader automatically will destroy or will corrupt the society. So this are what Al-Attas believe. So this is what Al-Attas believe in. It is summary and conclusion. The paper explores the concept of Islamic leadership as it can be seen from the Malaysian philosopher Syed Naquib Al-Attas. It shed the light on the biography, birth, education, and life experiences. So, Al-Attas believes that leadership is necessary and it is amana which Allah bestows on human beings. He suggests that leadership must be based on the four cardinal virtues, which are wisdom, al-hikmah, courage, suja', temperance, ifa, and justice. While there is another four that cause destruction to leadership. They are lying and breaking promise, so slander, envy, and avarice. So the paper also elaborates what Al-Attas called cognitive and emotive executive competency, which he believes that are the meaningful leader must possess. With this, I will stop here. أقول لكم قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Thanks for the listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.